Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Kickstart with Kayla. I'm your host, Kayla Farner, and I'm so excited that you're here with me this week. If you haven't connected with me already, be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Kickstart with Kayla, or if you have any inquiries, you can email me at kickstartwithkayla@gmail.com. Guys, I feel like I'm so excited every time I have a guest on, but I am very excited because we have a new guest on today, and I just said I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be on here. I have my good friend Charlie Wolschon with me.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes,
Here.
I'm so excited. Charlie is one of my new friends. I met at my program. We went to Southeast Asia together, along with Anna Grace, who was on the podcast 2 weeks ago. But yeah, how are you doing?
Doing well. It's weird. Like the last day, kind of like every emotion, every like lesson is like all confining itself up to like the front of my brain, and it's like just so much. But it's really cool to get to like kind of see it from like a outside perspective a little bit. So
Yeah, it's been really fun. For those of you that don't know, well, I've mentioned on here I'm in like a program right now, but yeah, we are recording this on the very last day, which is so sad. How do you feel about it ending?
it's different this year. So I'm interning this year.
Yeah.
Which means I just kind of get to be like on staff, kind of shadow, but also like have the same role as the staff does. To get a picture of what that will look like. And being on staff, like it gives me this bird's eye view almost, where like last year like I was like fully, invested with like all the other students, all my other friends, but now this year it's like I get to kind of choose how much I want to be part of that, and then how much I want to be part of like the behind the scenes stuff, like getting stuff together to make it work. And that's why like this reflective part of this recent week has been very different, because like all the events that we have to set up, like I'm not hanging out with people, but I get to see like whole kind of beginning to end process, which is really cool, because then you get to see like the worship night last night, like I get to see like how that kind of unfolds from the beginning of the day, which is really cool.
Hey, Buzz Snake. Yeah, I feel like it's cool to see the behind the scenes of it all. Especially now that you've had the perspective, like, as a person in the program and then getting to intern and, like, help out get, like, the full picture of it. It was really cool. I did want to ask if you could share a little bit of your testimony, just so listeners can get a better idea on how you got to where you are today in your faith.
Yeah, so I've now been following Christ for the past, is it 2.5 years? Coming up on 3 years. And I grew up going to church. Like my dad was raised Catholic, my mom raised Lutheran, and it was really my mom that kind of like just steamrolled like the faith in our family. Because my dad, growing up in Catholic church, like very just kind of closed off, because his family just was poor representations of Christ. That he kind of associated the two. So we went to church growing up. I'm the oldest of three kids, and so I grew up going to church, and then kind of around like fifth grade, just became very conscious of like kind of eternity, abstract thought. Like I would come to my mom with all these questions of like, why do I see the world out of like in myself? Like, why am I not my friend Ethan? Why am I not my friend Thomas? Like, why am I me? And how do I know that all this is real? Because like I'm seeing it from the lens of me. How do I know that like that you're real, that that's real, like all this stuff? And my mom was like, why are you asking these questions? Like, this is like kind of insane. And it was because I didn't really like, I believed in the sense of like, okay, like Jesus was a man that existed, but I didn't like understand the divinity of it. Like I didn't understand that he was like the first and the last, like all that stuff that I just had heard in Sunday school, and like all the Bible stories. Like I believed in the things that he did, but not like fully who he said he was, mostly because I just couldn't really understand it. So um I I would have said like I was a Christian, but I didn't really understand what I was saying when I said that. And then like fast forward, I moved to Sweden with my family. I was there for 3 years in high school. So like 9 to 11th grade, just 2019 to 2022 for me. And being there I immediately I'm going to an international school, about 70 people in my class, and I don't know a single Christian there. Like it would be just me. Um, which was really interesting because I knew that there were places that weren't really full of a lot of Christians, but like I'd never been living in a place like that. And immediately like I'm just this, Christian American that comes over and they're like, oh yeah, we don't believe that. I'm just like, okay, who do I go to that's gonna like affirm this? And like no one around me, none of my features, none like there was no one, and I was 50, so I was like, I don't really know what to do here.
Were they atheists?
Yeah, most of them were just either atheists or I mean, I know a couple of Muslims, couple Hindu, but like most of them just didn't think about
Okay.
it. Most of them, yeah, most of them were just kind of like, at least at that age in high school, like over in Sweden, that's just very postmodern, post-industrial. Like people just really focus on their life and what they can do in this lifetime, and they don't really think past that. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to just try to talk about faith, and people are like, I don't really care. Like it wasn't a sense of like, no, I don't believe that. It was just like people didn't really want to think about each other, which was really interesting. So, yeah, Sweden ended up being pretty difficult. Went through a lot of like depressive episodes, just feeling very like alienated, not feeling fully welcome, like fully part of the community, part of the school. And I really lost any bit of like faith that I had, but there was always this sense of like protection, I guess. And the way that people have explained it to me is like I was never interested in any of the partying, like any drinking, smoking, like any stuff like that. Like I was always super turned off towards it. And I mean, I grew up in a household where it was just basic rules of like, okay, don't do this, not do this. But like, it wasn't like I was extremely afraid of punishment or like extremely afraid of what my parents would do. It was just like, I just don't want to. And I never knew why. And so there was always just this sense of like, something is telling me that like things will be okay. Um, past the sense of just like, oh, it'll all work out, like life's a roller coaster. It was like, it was just like, hold on to hope, like things would be fine. And so pushed through that, came back to the US for my senior year. I hope I moved back, and I went to a private Catholic school. So immediately I'm getting Old Testament, New Testament, like every day in class. I'm surrounded by people who are believers, surrounded by people that are believers but not really following Christ, and then surrounded by, people that just don't care. That they're out of Catholic school because their parents have filtered them through Catholic school their whole lives. And getting New Testament, Old Testament every single day, I was like, a lot of this just makes too much sense for it to be numbing. Like to have the historical evidence, of the Bible, of it being written over the course of 1,500 years, having 40 authors, like all having the same narrative, and there being no like, you can't make a contradiction. So to have a text that has been written over 1,500 years, having 40 authors, all having the same frame of thought, same narrative, and it's so countercultural to what was happening in that day and age, and it's still countercultural to this day. I'm like, I'm not finding any contradictions in between these thoughts. I'm like, how can anyone look at this and just shrug it off? So I didn't like become, I guess, Christ conscious or like open to the possibility of it through an encounter or through anything like that. They came through just simply reading the Bible and being like, okay, this has to be divine in some way, because there's no way that a bunch of people in like the Vatican just came together and like, okay, we're gonna make the world's biggest host and just trick everybody into thinking. So it it timed me perfectly for going into college, like in NC State, and I had I'd been in a relationship for a few months, but I started like at the end of my senior year, and I was just feeling super, super anxious about it. She was at a different school. It was kind of stretching itself thin, and like I was so focused on like making that my I guess my measure of success was like how well my relationship was going. So I just thought, okay, as long as I can like prove that I can be a good boyfriend and then eventually be a good husband, like that'll be proof that I'm like just a valuable person. And so when it was getting really stretched thin, it breathed me out. I was super anxious. I'd had anxiety in Sweden, but like I was just not sleeping, like getting 4 hours of sleep a night, like just a couple months into college. And um I wasn't making friends because I was just putting all my effort into like just trying to fix what was not in my power to fix. And I was just sitting outside our student union one day, and someone comes up to me and is like, "Hey man, like I go around asking people about faith," and immediately I'm just kind of like, like I don't really want to talk, but he just seemed genuine enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, sure, let's sit down. And he was with one of his other friends, so there's two of them. They sit down, and he just starts asking questions about what I believe in, what my faith is like, and if I believe in Jesus, and what my family is like about that, and just tell him all this. And there was one thing that bothered me a lot, like since coming back to the U.S., was when people would say that they loved Jesus, because I'd always heard my whole life, Jesus loves you, Jesus loves me, blah 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 blah, but I had never really heard until high school, like, oh, I love Jesus. And like that really confused me. So I was like, how can you love someone you can't see? How can you love someone who like you don't have like hard proof of? That doesn't make sense. And they like bothered because I was like, I want that, but I don't know how to get it. And so I told Blake that, and his friend next to him, John, he hadn't been talking much, but then right then he chimed in and he said, like, if you could figure out how you can have that, how you can have what those people have, like, would you want to find out? And I was like, yeah, if there's a way that that can happen, might as well. Like, what do I have to lose? And they asked if they could pray for me. I told them about the anxiety of the relationship and all that. I was like, I just want to answer. Uh, like, no matter what it is, like, I just want this anxiety to go away. And that night, like a few hours later, broke up over the phone. I'm like, wow, yeah, on like her accord. And I was like, okay, prayer works.
Yeah.
And that was on a Friday. So then I went to church on Sunday, and the message, it was a one-off message. It wasn't part of the series that they were doing, and it was from the book of Jonah. And I just, over the course of the entire sermon, just kept hearing forgiveness and grace and mercy and like that. I just heard like forgiveness and grace and mercy, and that like no matter how much we have tried to run from God, like he is always still pursuing us. And like in his grace, like he gave us Christ, and like Christ came down, lived perfectly, was crucified so that we could know the love that he has for us. And that's all the message was about. And there came a time at the sermon where at the very end where he gave this imagery of like holding on to like resentment and unforgiveness and anger, like hurt, like holding like a bird in the palm of your hand, and how if you just kept your hand shut, that the bird would eventually suffocate, and like no one gains anything from that. And then the pastor, he just gave the imagery. He was holding it in his hands, and he said, let it go. And he opened up his hands, and as he said, let it go, I like just felt it in my heart. And like I just got hit this huge wave, and like saw the moments in my life where I had the choice to just run directly away from God, but something unknowingly like in me was pointing me into the direction, like pointing me towards him, even though I didn't know what it was. Just moments that he had really just kind of like steered me in the right direction without me realize. And like I just saw this all in like a flash, like just moments in my life where he had been working, and I just had this feeling that he was telling me like I've just always been, I've always been, I've always been. And all the times that I had like denied him and looked away and not wanting to believe, not wanting to like give in, not wanting to submit to it, like he was always there.
Yeah.
And he wasn't upset at anything that I had done. He just wanted me to know that I was loved and that he was there for me. Uh, and yeah, that was in October 2023. And since that, I've been on this journey, just trying to, you know him more, know Jesus more, be transformed by him. And I've been just like changed by how much I see other people changed. And like, that's all I want to do. It's just so, like, other people changed by the love of God. Does it happen for me? Yeah. It's like, there's no greater thing that you can witness in somebody's life and see them realize that, like, the being that even created them loves them so much that he cares about every individual moment of their waking day. Like, people need to know that. So
Wow, that's awesome. And there's two things that stick out to me when it comes to that. One, with your testimony, like one is that you asked all the questions. Like you still went to like a lot of your life and you were asking all these questions that many people that aren't Christian or they're questioning their faith ask. And it's very normal. I mean, I remember asking some of those questions myself. And like definitely wrestling through that. Sorry guys, if you hear any background noise during this episode, we're in the basement of one of the dorm rooms and people are walking up and down everywhere. But two is that with your story, that is literally possible for anybody. Like anyone that does not know Jesus or they have lived their life and have been questioning him or just kind of seeing him in the background, like salvation and redemption is possible for them too. And so I really like that about your story. Since you've become a Christian, so with you said almost 3 years, right? Like, what has been the biggest thing God has taught you? Or one up?
yeah.
By the way, hi, Kayla and Bodie got here.
But it's really worth it to stop thinking that you are in control of your life. Because if it's true that, so one, like, it's been proven, there are Roman, like, government accounts that have been preserved that Jesus existed. Like, there was a man who performed miracles, signs, and things that were unexplained. Like, that is recorded by multiple sources, within like 300 years of his life. Now, what comes up to faith is, okay, was he actually resurrected? Did he come back to life? And there were over 500 like eyewitness accounts to him being resurrected within the next 40 days after he rose back from the dead. So we have all these witnesses, we have all these accounts, all, the Dead Sea Scrolls, like all these things are uncovered. Like, we have thousands more manuscripts of the life and resurrection of Jesus than we do for Aristotle and Plato and like all these Greek philosophers that we use in schools. But there's less than a dozen manuscripts for them and over thousands about the life and resurrection of Christ.
Right.
So it's not so much as, okay, did he exist, or okay, did he like raise from the dead? But the question is he worth fault? And because you can choose to deny him, because he's there, you can choose to deny him, and that is the choice that he gives us. You can choose to wallow in your shame and self-pity and circumstance that are the result of the sin in the world and are the direct end of God, or we can choose to trust that all those things, all those circumstances, all those problems, all those issues are nothing with the surpassing glory of Christ. So the biggest thing that I learned from that is, like, I've had to give up control or what I think I need to make my life look like. Because if Jesus is who he says he is, then none of that matters. And I should make my life like an altar to making him know, so that other people can know that he's worth all.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely something I've learned over the past year too, especially with our program. It's like we are called to go share the gospel, like with everyone, like because people, like, how will they know, And so, yeah, I think if we have our mind fixated on ourselves and what we want to accomplish in life and our goals and trying to make a whole plan for our life, like, that is ultimately selfish, and that is ultimately our eyes are not fixated on what we should be fixated on, which is Jesus. But when your eyes are fixated on Jesus, I feel like it's a natural shift for you to start focusing more on others rather than yourself. Um, and I think that's been really cool because it allows room for you to grow in your community. It allows you to see the needs of others and ask God, how can I serve you while serving others? Uh, and I think that's just really cool aspect of Christianity. You're just following Jesus.
Right. Because with that, like, if we go back to, like, the, I guess, logical or philosophical, like, way of thinking about it, if it's a hoax and if it's not real, you're still living selflessly and you're still living universally for the benefit of others. So, like, let's say I'm wrong and I die and I just immediately go to the ground. The impact I had on people is that I didn't live for myself, and that I tried to meet the needs of others and show them that there is a peace that expresses understanding. But I've known and I've seen that there is a supernatural element to it, because it's nothing that can be given by drugs or treatment or anything like that. Simply trusting that he can do it. And that doesn't come from meditating or from, like, going to different counselors, and counseling definitely helps or like advocate for that. But like, it is the power of Jesus is nothing that can be matched on earth. And like, that is where my faith has to come back to when I'm doubting, is because it's like, okay, like, I have to remember all the times that I have simply, like, cried out in my pain and it has been restored within the minute. And like, that makes, sense, because before I would have just been like telling myself like, oh yeah, things will work out. Doesn't make me feel better. That might make me feel better for a second, but that doesn't actually change how I feel. So like, if that is how I go about life, and I tell people that they can hope in something that cannot be, like, grasped in the same sense that I can pick up my water bottle right next to me. But Colossians 1 says that Jesus is the image of the invisible God. So if we look to Jesus, we see him in everything. We see that but by all things, like, for all things, through all things, like, things were created for him, through him. So we can live knowing that we don't need to think about ourselves. Because what does it matter? If we live for the needs of others, then our life will be written out in itself, that our happiness is made by fitting the needs of others.
Great. It almost reminds me of, which, not to sound morbid, but it kind of reminds me of funerals, because when at a funeral or in an obituary, like, they always focus on, like, the good somebody did, or like the qualities of this person possessed, the good qualities, or the way that they impacted their community or the people around them. And so it's like, that's ultimately like what you're gonna be remembered for. Um, might as well make it you be remembered because of how you follow Jesus. Um, yeah, but then ultimately, like, in the long run, it doesn't. None of this matters except, like, Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of, since our overseas trip, especially like last week, like, I was so reminded there that, like, okay, like, I'm hungry, I want the food that I'm used to, and then I come back here and I get the food that I'm used to, and it's like, oh, awesome, I feel great. But then, like, 10 minutes later, you realize that, like, that is ultimately not what is going to sustain me.
Yeah.
So, like, I could eat my favorite meal over and over and over again, but then I'm going to need it again, right? And, like, it only lasts until I forget how it tasted. But with Jesus, like, he is always present, he's always there, and is always sufficient. So, like, I can lean on him for that, and know that, like, nothing in comparison is going to sustain. And it's so weird, because at the end of the day, I still want nice shoes. I want to have enough money to, like, fix my car if it blows up. I want to have all those things, but they're ultimately not what gives me like my final hope, you know. So all those things are taken away, and still know that there is a king seated on the throne that was slain for us. Then all those things kind of shrink down, and they're not as scary.
No, I'm not. One more question for you. You know, um, since you are like a newer Christian, I mean, for years not that new, but like, what advice would you have to somebody that is new to their faith, or they're still trying to figure things out?
Yeah. Don't think that you are behind. Everyone is on their own timeline that like the Lord has placed beforehand, and it is by His grace that like we can just put our faith in Him to be saved. Like there's no requirement of articulating yourself well. There's no requirement of like knowing the perfect gospel presentation to be saved. Like we're all being sanctified. We're all growing like in the holiness together, just all at a different pace, and like that's okay. So just keep asking questions, keep reading the Bible, keep trying to spend time like God. Just enjoy God. Like I forget, like I have to remind myself all the time, like just to enjoy Him, rather than just like gain knowledge for the sake of gaining knowledge. So like just enjoy Him. Like we were saved so that we could be in a relationship with them. You aren't saved so we could like follow the rules perfectly. We were saved so we could be in a relationship. So just enjoy God and enjoy the process, and like always do it alongside brothers and sisters who are gonna, you know, help bear your burdens, help pray for you, like help go through these experiences when you, because it's a long ride, you know, and it's just our job to keep enduring and keep trusting and like also stats and that.
Community is everything.
It really is.
It really is. And that's something I've learned too over the past few years is just you can't do it by yourself. Like God calls us to be in community and He calls us to be in community for a reason. So yeah, it's also so nice to have community when you have those questions. Because you obviously go to the source, go to Jesus, but like you can ask those questions to other Christians as well, which is pasa. It's been so fun.
Yeah. And just to have people that affirm like that it's okay to not have everything layered out. Like when I have people around me that like are, you know, more spiritually mature, more knowledgeable, that like I'm like, okay, I'm experiencing doubt. What does that mean? Does that mean that I'm not a Christ? Like what is going on? And they're like, dude, like I feel the same thing all the time, but it's okay. Like it happens. And for people to just kind of meet you in that and be like, I feel how you feel. I mean, First Peter 5:9 said like there are many others who are going through the same affliction as us, and like that comfort of just like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not even alone. Like as I'm walking through my faith, like it's not just about hardship. It's also about like the process of like being transformed by Christ, and we're all not alone in that. We're all going through our different doubts, different fears, different concerns, and like that's all part. That's why it's faith. It's not like we don't get a grade. Like it's faith or no faith. Oh, sure.
Which is great.
It's fun being a Christian. Yeah. Well, wait, this is awesome. I'm so happy you were on here. I've enjoyed our friendship. I've been telling people they're like the big brother I ever had.
Super sweet. This has been really fun. Being international is awesome.
Yeah. No, this summer has been fantastic. So thanks so much.
Yes, true. Yes. Well, guys, I hope this helped kickstart your week, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, guys.